following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbp-radio.com.
Hello and welcome back to the Next of Kin podcast. Happy 2023. I'm your host, Rich, joined once again for the new year by my son, Christian.
What's up?
How are you doing, sir?
Good.
Well, we're here in the studio. It's funny, I looked at my camera shot, and it looks like I have a keyboard in front of me, but it's not. It's my equipment. But it was funny. I looked like I'm going to start playing the piano or something. So. How you doing over there?
Good.
How were your
Bringing up
holidays?
about something. Good.
They were interesting.
Have we not done something since the holidays?
We did something last week.
But didn't we do something
I don't
last
know.
week? I was about to say.
No, we did something, but it was before New Year's.
Oh, yeah?
It was during the week.
Sure,
So, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hopefully, we appreciate everybody who helped us out in 2022, as well as everybody that's been helping us out at Merge. Got all kinds of cool stuff coming up this year in Merge, blah, blah, blah. I'll talk about that later. So, it's funny, still haven't seen Avatar 2. I feel like we're the only two left.
I mean, it's in the top 10 now, right?
It's in the top 10. It broke.
I think we said, what was our, we
All right,
said,
should I start with my disclaimer?
I mean, we could, sure, what?
I would like to
Yeah.
apologize
To
James Cameron and everyone that worked on Avatar 2 because I was wrong. For some odd reason, everybody's excited about this.
It's not, I don't know if, are people like,
It's got $1.5 billion.
But like
I was wrong.
But like I watched like people like that I
anything.
listen to online react to like a little bit. I haven't seen like too many spoiler reviews and stuff. Most people are just like, it's just the same movie. It's just like some people think the story's better, and then other people just think it's like the same exact like surface level story with like.
You know, your little brother went to see it, and he was ripping it.
Zach hated it.
Zach hated it. He said
and we're being very separate. And to be fair, we're always have been, or at least I have. You've always been a little bit more. You've wavered in the past in some occasions, but
about
the effects. Like the effects of the old Avatar are pretty good and hold up, and like these new ones are pretty like regardless of what you think of the new movie, like the new ones work better. And, like, there's so much more life to those. There is, like, a significant amount of life to those CG models.
Sure.
Like, very clearly. Some of the models look weird in certain points, I think, in the trailers that I've seen.
I mean,
but
I mean, obviously, the people are going to see it.
Man, we have to see what
people are going to see it for
still.
the effects.
I think so.
I think where I mainly was wrong was that I didn't know if effects were going to be enough anymore to get people into the theater, but maybe these effects are so darn good and they're so groundbreaking that makes up for.
Maybe that's why they made the
story.
MCU suck. With their effects for 3 episodes, they purposely. I think we figured this out. I think
you figured this out.
I think, and
this is like some
all
weird
an interior.
Conspiracy
This is
theory
all an
shit
interior plan
that you just
to make
came up with out of your
I
ass.
literally just came up with this, but
welcome
back.
back.
I'm gonna piece it together.
Welcome back, 2023.
And I think this makes sense actually, though. Like, I think I just connected all the dots.
Space lasers.
They purposely sabotaged all the MCU films. Like, it made their CGI fucking trash. Like, so that Avatar would be like so much better, and everyone would be so excited to see a movie that had, like good CG, because none of the films this year had any. Well, they fluctuated. Let's go with that.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking.
I'm with you on that.
Sure, this must be 100% true.
This must be. And it's the bots, man. It's the Russian bots.
But either way, like, to be fair, there is a level of people have been noticeably angry. And to be fair, this is a level of behind the scenes like fatigue and overworking by the studio of like their animation team and stuff.
That is a boss.
But then also, like, I think there's a level of almost all of the. I was reading something about this. I think what's his name? Guillermo del Toro was saying something about James Cameron's like this new like because it's all motion capture, obviously.
Yes.
So like with motion capture, like there are two types of CG characters.
Yes.
There are motion capture characters that have a lot more like humanity and like a bit more realism to them.
Like
and
the
then
actual
there's like
characters.
Yeah, and then there's
Then
a lot
there's
of
just
like,
the whales.
and then there's like a very kind of it's very superhero based is what this part is, and I've learned about this kind of what the MCU does is that they have certain sequences where like you have like say Thor jumping and like whacking his hammer. That's just a CG model of Thor.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so like,
But
and
it
I
was
think there's a bit of
created using the ping
his
pong
likeness
things.
and stuff like that. But
the ping pong ball body things where they do something and then they
But he's
have
not
ways
doing
that.
But he's not doing that action. Like,
No,
and
he's
they're not
not.
cops. Whereas I think like every single scene in like Avatar is like the actor with the body capture on doing the.
Well, I mean,
the act.
ultimately,
so it is a bit more like.
We
like
talked about this in the last episode. They clearly the conversation about why it needed to make $10 billion or $2 billion, excuse me.
I think that was also misinformation too.
Well, no, I don't think it was. But I think what it was, and again, we talked about this last time, that it's about the R&D. It's about the research and development that took them 13 years to develop, and it's groundbreaking, and people like it. And every review pretty much says this 99%, not 99%, but most of the reviews that I read, it's got a high score.
I don't think I'm going to dislike. I don't dislike the original Avatar. I don't think it's like very original.
I don't like the original.
I think the original is a pretty palatable action film with like some familiar
It's
concepts
no
and with very popular concepts and ideas from like even some of his own previous works.
Yes.
But it was a very palatable story to kind of do. Everything else is the art to place over a simple story.
Story-wise, I think it's probably his worst script.
I could probably agree with that.
I would go, and I don't dislike James Cameron movies. I think he's Aliens and some, like T2 and for
and maybe there is just something about Cameron that's a draw.
Titanic is, for what Titanic is.
Mm-hmm.
It's an incredible movie for what it is.
Maybe Cameron is just a draw.
I think
like, maybe he
you're
just
right,
is.
because Cameron did a lot of his own. Like there wasn't a lot of Jake Sully running around.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like we questioned that. Like we said like where are the actors? And I guess like that was a good point.
Yeah.
Now I don't think the actors would have been like super like would have made
I
people want
don't
to see
remember
anyway.
much
But
about
him
the
talking
movie because we filmed it 10 years ago.
But I guess like him being the guy that developed the technology over 5 years, and that being the thing that he was asked about most, I imagine.
So when
I guess
we going?
Maybe, like
when are we
we're
going?
Like this week at some point. So we'll do a podcast after.
So I said we should go, and then after we might have to take a nap because it's 3.5 hours. I might need a nap.
Yeah, but in terms of
like a Rectagino or something.
But what is it? Slightly over 1.5 billion now is like the box office, and I think we thought
it just passed Maverick. It's in the top 10
I think this is where we were kind of. So it's gonna go more than what we thought. I think.
I said $2 billion.
No, you didn't. You said I don't think you did.
I said I think it realistically.
I think I said $2 billion.
Okay, well I don't think I said $1 billion. I think I was closer to $2 billion. Maybe I wasn't a quite.
I think you said
full
Maverick. I don't think you thought it was gonna beat Maverick.
I thought it wouldn't catch Maverick.
Okay,
but you know what? I went back and looked at the totals.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't realize that Endgame was 2.9 billion or whatever it is. I thought it was like 2.2 billion.
No.
I was off.
This is closer to 3.
My scale was off
your
because.
Scale. Okay, I see.
So and that sounds like a bad excuse. Like
but no, but I can understand where.
Because when I looked this morning and I looked at the top 10 list, I'm like, because when it happens sometimes, this for me where it screwed it up is that I get screwed up because sometimes you have to look at the domestic versus the international. And, and again, and I don't want to bring up back last episode, but Maverick has no China audience.
Yeah, that's true.
Imagine if Maverick had Chinese audience.
Is Avatar doing, I don't know how well Avatar's doing in China.
Oh, it's all China.
Is it all China?
It's huge China. It's huge overseas numbers.
Okay,
his overseas numbers are ridiculous.
So they're just doing it because, again, like, okay,
they're significantly.
So he's helping. So Avatar 2 is, like, probably substantially contributing to the COVID epidemic in China at the moment.
Oh, good. Well, that's good.
Because that's literally a thing.
So again, James.
He's like, all right then.
James, if you're listening, I apologize.
Yeah, you helped, James.
You were right. I think it was me actually. I think all my negative. I think everybody was so mad at me that they decided to go see the movie.
Nice.
So We're going to cover two other things really quick.
Okay, so that's interesting. I didn't realize because I wasn't sure if it was going to do well in China, given the amount of what they have going on there.
A lot of people watch our podcast. I think 90% of people watch our podcast probably know us or are in Western New York or whatever. We're in the Niagara Falls. We're out in Niagara Falls, the Buffalo area. Obviously it was a very emotional week for us here in Buffalo because of Damar Hamlin, Buffalo Bills player who was injured. We were watching it on TV Monday night, and obviously today is Friday, and they finally have gotten some good news.
Yeah, he's had a lot of
one of the podcasts that operates out of here that normally tapes on Tuesday, they didn't even tape because they just felt it was inappropriate. But it's the good news is he's doing very well. Mm-hmm. The really good news is that
good recovery.
The way the world had mainly obviously the United States has reacted to it. Mm-hmm. The positive things that I think that could come out of this. And luckily, looks like he's going to make a. I'm not saying he's a full recovery to be a football player, but he's definitely going to be.
No, I think it's brought a lot of attention to.
He's going to have and
the way that they're the NFL, like the players are, and again they make a lot of money and they have a decent job and
it's going to change.
There's perspective of it and there's of everything, but there's a certain way that NFL players are treated by the league and the ownership of their own clubs and I think that brought a lot of attention to that, especially the NFL's first reaction, which was play well. You got 5 minutes.
And again, I don't want to get.
We don't need to get too much into it, but most people would say
this is a watershed moment for specifically the NFL. Obviously, we're soccer fans.
They had to adjust.
We're soccer fans, and we saw the Christian Eriksen moment in soccer in an international friendly about a year ago, and that was handled very differently. But luckily, Christian Eriksen also recovered. But again, so a big shout out to me. I've worked with athletic trainers when I was a coach and a teacher, and athletic trainers just go get some Band-Aids and some ice. Athletic trainers save lives, and and they don't get paid a lot. They don't get paid as much as most of your athletic trainers probably don't get paid as much as even a doctor, a nurse, or an EMT worker.
And the NFL staff did, and when the situation happened, to be fair to the NFL, that they did well. They got out there quick.
The Buffalo Bills athletic staff, as well as the Cincinnati Bengals athletic staff.
Yeah, they all know. They're yes, and again, once you see both staff go running, then
well, the way those guys all know
their job is though. Their job is if it's worse, if it gets worse than just your player having a an injury that is bad for them, but it's not life threatening. But if you're the first line of defense for if something worse happens.
Having been a coach, I know the procedures, I know the training, I know specifically talking to a friend of mine who's an athletic trainer who knows a lot of the guys out of Buffalo because they all go to a lot of the same workshops. Yeah. And my friend was telling me that they practice that scenario.
Yeah.
In August, they practice what to do in a cardiac arrest situation, even though they think it's a 1 in a million chance of happening. They're prepared because there are athletes that collapse. There's a kid. There was a kid from Niagara Falls High School that was playing in a tournament out of state when he was in high school senior about 15 years ago, and he collapsed and died on the court at a workshop down. It was down in Ohio someplace, and because of situations where athletes pass out for various reasons, because maybe they have a diagnosed thing, an undiagnosed thing, or a trauma of some sort. So they have, so athletic trainers. I mean, big shout out to athletic trainers.
I can mention in Europe, for some soccer stuff. It's becoming more and more common that if the crowd, there's a thing in the crowd even. Sometimes the athletic trainer is or some of the staff is literally the closest first line of defense sort of thing.
Well, they stop that game.
And they literally will stop the game in say Premier League if something's happening in the audience, and you'll see sometimes even the medical staff on the field will go and help. There's obviously the stadium often has medical staff as well, but
that level of respect for the players, the game. I mean, the thing that I think was that I noticed was watching people with trauma, the players, the audience, the coaches, the families, people just watching, but people there. I mean, it was heartbreaking. The other one I wanted to shout out to is that Jeremy Renner. Jeremy Renner was hurt. Plowing. He was trying to help a neighbor or something. He had this ridiculous sized plow because he lives up in Utah, Montana, wherever that is. And he, unfortunately something happened. He got hurt, but I guess he's been tweeting and sending messages from his hospital bed. And I don't know the extent of his injuries.
He's still pretty messed up, given the videos.
But clearly, he's going to live and he's going to have a life. And ultimately, it
could have been worse. I made it with the injuries they were talking about with him. It immediately made me think of. what's his name? The one Star Trek
Yeah,
actor,
yeah.
the Russian guy,
Yeah, who passed,
who got like pinned
got
by
killed
his car.
got killed by his own car.
He got pinned.
I mean,
So like,
you know
it made me think of that, and I was. And
there's
lucky,
tragedies every
tragedy
day.
happens. Just shit goes wrong, and people occasionally it can really fuck
Unfortunately,
people,
and you know, the sad thing is that you know tragedies like this happen to regular people every single day, and nobody talks about it. Besides the people that are directly affected. So, you know, maybe because of tragedies like this, maybe it will make the world a better place because guys like Jeremy and Damar are such high-profile people now. Maybe that'll change sports. Maybe it'll change safety. Maybe it'll change people be more. But just at the very least, don't be screaming at a sporting event because your guy dropped a ball. Like, you know, they're humans, and I think we all learned that this week. So, you know, that type of stuff. So. Except Kathleen Kennedy, we hate.
I think it put a lot of like the idea of like injury. Like I think a lot of people just kind of they get like numb to like injuries in like sport. But
get up and play, man.
But like say certain injuries, but again like and then ESPN did a good job where they switched over like after the game
when they went
like
to Van Pelt.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other guy they had that they were interviewing, I forget his name,
who had been through a traumatic injury.
But he had been through a
not
traumatic
like
injury,
that,
and he had witnessed like you say his friends like get like I think the best example is like a pretty common injury, like not common, but like it happens quite a bit. Like say an ACL or like what's the other one?
Well, spinal injury.
Not
sometimes.
even spinal, but I'm talking like the legs. Like there's the ACL and there's that other one that's the meniscus or whatever. The two things, stuff like that, like weird tendons and stuff like that. Like those injuries put you out for like a year, and like they can ruin and that can end your career. And if you're like a 22-year-old guy, like you're like that's like.
Well, I mean,
you know what I mean. Like
just
that's
in Buffalo's history, the three that stick out in my mind were obviously Damar Hamlin, Kevin Everett, you know, who was a Buffalo Bill like 10, 15 years ago. He had a spinal injury, and they didn't know if he'd ever walk again. Yeah, but the doctors and the folks that were there for that game saved his life because if those guys wouldn't have the training that they had, you know, he might have died because of the injuries sustained. Not only did he survive, he walked again. And then the other one was many years ago was like a goalie for the Sabres, Clint Malarchuk, got hit with a skate in his neck.
Yeah,
and literally and your grandfather was actually at that game. You know, so
that's you
know that was so we've had weird things happen just in the Buffalo, and it's been a tough month for our area.
It's been tough.
We had a house fire. We had the blizzard. We had the shooting back in the spring. Like Buffalo's had a rough year. Like I know people realize like how hard it is to feel like to be a Buffalonian or a Western New Yorker right now because of a lot we need some positive news. So you know, I mean, I think that's why the Sabres were very happy to have a good win the other night because they felt like we're doing what we can to lift spirits in our area. So you know,
hopefully the Bills go far and they like fight for all that. And,
I mean, because not even so much.
It'd be a good story if the Bills. Yeah, the Bills would do it this year. It'd be a great story
for the community. The community needs something good.
Yeah, the community. I occasionally am relatively what's it called, negative
about athletes
about like football.
Not athletes necessarily,
not athletes,
football.
But it's like football.
The NFL specifically.
But I would very much like for the Buffalo area to get a win.
Yeah,
so
they definitely deserve it. So all right, moving on. So I have a bunch of things. We watched Bad Batch. That's out.
Yeah.
I have a list of things that are coming out. I know you have a few things. So, you know, the other thing we can just knock off in 12 seconds is we covered Willow, and I just don't care. So we're done with Willow. It's just not good.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's lame. I tried.
I kind of thought about it.
I tried, and it's just like
the dots connected in my head. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to not be nice to it anymore.
All they need now is come out with like a Goonies series.
It doesn't look bad.
It didn't even look great.
It doesn't look great, but it doesn't look bad.
It's average. It's just average. It's just like, and I'm not wasting my time watching something.
But again,
average.
like that's kind of like the.
I'd rather just rewatch Lord of the Rings.
I don't know though, because I just like
not Rings of Power.
But I guess like we have to give things credit now if they look good, because then you have shit like Netflix putting out like The Witcher Blood Orge. You know what this is?
I don't know what this is.
Okay,
so that's one of your topics.
This is a decent transition, I guess. Like another fantasy show. So like obviously we've talked about The Witcher, I think, on this. Like
not recently,
the show hasn't been out in a while, but and I think we talked about when Cavill left.
We did, and we've talked about it before. We've covered season 1. We've covered
so like this, they have like a limited series.
I hate that term.
Yeah, why? Wait, why? What do you mean? It's just what else do you want to call it?
It's just a one-off
the good
series.
old fun time one-off
it's limited.
series.
It makes it sound like limited. It's limited to the number of episodes we could figure out how to make.
Up, man. All right, so it's like 4 episodes, and like I haven't even watched it. I might go watch it and I might have us watch it just to like Like,
great.
it's
Thanks for the
horrific.
pronoun usage. Great. I don't want to. I just
but-
don't want to.
Like, I used to be, like, a bit more positive on the Witcher series than the first 2 seasons that I am now. And I think they are, like, if you disconnect it from, like, the world they're trying to adapt, then, like, yeah, maybe you can, like, view it like that. But again, the way I get into things, my personal way that when I find a show I like is if, like, the show or, like, the world is interesting, then my brain craves more.
Yeah, I get that.
And I go
agree with
search,
that.
which is why, like, my opinions for, like, say the later seasons of Game of Thrones become more like stuck up book guy opinion, because I loved the Game of Thrones universe. You know what I mean? Like,
You need a t-shirt,
my first
stuck up book guy opinion.
Sure, but like my first experience, like, I love the Game of Thrones. Like, my first experience was the show, and that's often my first experience with things. Is like I get into the show, and then I enjoy the visual medium of it so much that I go find more and dig into the background.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, that falls apart because the later seasons diverge so far from, like, book lore, and then, like, certain ideas that are present in the books of Game of Thrones, mostly, like, prophecy-based stuff, which, again, like, the idea in the books is, like, the prophecies aren't, like, correct. Like, it's misinterpreted, and, like, and that idea, but... But still, that's an idea that's not present in the show. The Witcher kind of, like, especially season 2, like, is a very different... I would say The Witcher, at least in some... probably dude in Netflix's mind was like, this can be our Game of Thrones, right? Like, you would say.
Oh, no, there's no doubt
like,
that's what they thought.
And if you know anything about the Witcher book series, and, like, even the games a little bit, the games are not the definitive medium. The games are a very nice adaptation of that medium that have had a lot of time and effort taken into them, but even the author of it, like, thinks they're pretty decent, but kind of even, like, pushes back when people try to say they're more definitive than his own books. But the books are dark. Like, it's a dark fantasy world. Like, there's some, like, Game of Thrones-y type creepy, like, kind of, like, because there's some, like, Game of Thrones, like, there's some disgusting, like, really dark, like, nefarious stuff in the story. It's not, like, and that's the point. Like, the point is that there's, like, it's this truly
What does it
evil.
get to what you're talking about with Witcher,
So
though?
Witcher 2, like, dropped. In season 2,
Okay.
essentially drops, like, a significant amount of, like, the second book's, like, plot points, including, like, basically the entire evil plan, as well as, like, messing up, like, the relationships between, like, say, what's her name? Yennefer and, like, Ciri, who are supposed to have, like, a mother-daughter relationship, like how Geralt and her have, like, supposed to have a father-daughter. Like, that's supposed to be, like, the surrogate
unit.
family thing. And, like, the first interaction is, like, Yennefer tries to kill Ciri.
Well,
like, so to anyone who's read a book, though, where that never happens at all, and that character that we meet is entirely made up.
Again, I don't know anything about the books.
Let me say.
But before you let me do it. Let me just. I liked season 1, and I liked the beginning of 2.
It's a weird timeline.
But by the end, I was just kind of at lost.
Like, where's this going?
I kind of, like, got bored with it. I just didn't know there was a lot
they
of.
dropped so much of
There was a couple really good episodes.
They do that, yes, I would say. And again, I like certain portrayals. I don't mind Yennefer. I like Yennefer's portrayal to a certain extent.
The guy that was from Game of Thrones who played, like, the.
Oh, yeah, I liked him for that episode. Yeah,
that episode,
Torment's
that's what really,
character,
Torment's episode's really good. There's a lot of really, but like you said,
like Ciri, and I won't try to spoil too much because Ciri's stuff.
So get to what you're talking about.
But obviously, we get revealed to Ciri's, like, father at the end, who's still alive.
Oh,
and is,
Ciri.
And is
I'm
the,
sorry, I misunderstood your words.
Okay, but Ciri's, like, the girl, and then, like, obviously we get
Ciri's.
we finally meet the emperor of, like, Nilfgaard, the one emperor, which they've not done a good job with the world building in this show.
No,
very much either.
No, you've talked about that. It's
like,
a bunch of times.
Like,
before.
Nilfgaard's an evil empire, and we don't really see them do that much evil.
So is that why
like,
Cavill's just, like, out anyway?
Well, that Cavill's wanted them. That's part of that whole reasoning.
Right.
Part of it was, yes, he thought he was going to have an escape to Superman, and now he's at Warhammer, which he seems to be like.
And he's an executive producer.
Well, yes,
for
he has
Warhammer.
he has what he. Yeah. So actually, to be fair, after all of this, it kind of got him a while, but he ended up in a role where he kind of wanted, and that seems to be the.
Yep.
Like the main thing, even more so than the Superman thing, of why Cavill has left Witcher, because he seems to be a guy, and I think it's a little bit to do with, one, he's a PC like gamer like fan and enjoyed the games and the books themselves, and then two, like, I think his experience with, like, the Snyderverse type stuff and the fans of that, who, like, it's kind of like gives him, like, at least some level of appreciation to, like, kind of fulfilling, like, the vision. Like, he understands that you're adapting, like, something that's dear to people on some level. Like like there's a pre-existing, and yes, you're trying to make it for the masses and for everyone else, but there is a level of like stewardship that like should be had with stuff, which is why like my later opinion of the Game of Thrones stuff is not great. Not that I think like the show should have been like an adaptation of like a book series that's like, you know, not finished. Like but where Game of Thrones ends is very, very clearly given like most of the tones and the hints. Right, not even close to where that show's going.
So what's
and that's
this
the same thing is going to happen with Witcher.
Show? What's this show you were talking about though?
Okay, we'll get to that in a second. That's a later part of the story. Witcher 2 though, like for instance, to be fair, I'll give the ideas so people can give their own opinion and whatever to make their own choice on what the book 2 thing is. There's all sorts of weird storylines with Ciri, given that she's some sort of like magical being, right? She has like immense power. Right. Like she hasn't been fully woken up yet, but she eventually, and this is going to actually tie into the new show as well, but like the whole way that The Witcher is supposed to have started was that all the creatures and stuff we see, the monsters, the elves, the humans, they were all in separate spheres of like different dimensions essentially. And there's one big magical event that like pushed them all together into the same world in chaos, and then like the world is the fragment of that mixed world. And then she's able eventually to move between them. Right. Like the old ones. Okay. Either way, like she, like there's a whole weird, like her father, like wants Ciri sort of thing for like her power, but it's like gone out through like a weird, like impregnation, like plan.
You're getting way off in the weeds here.
No, but I'm saying like that's no more dark than like half of the shit that happened in Game of Thrones. And if you're trying to do your streaming service's version of like Game of Thrones, and then you don't have the stomach for some of the darker stuff, which Game of Thrones did. I know you're not HBO, but like, and then there's stuff like that. Like the elves want Ciri because she's one of the only people that could like say create more elves. Like again, there's a level of like her being a woman that's like in Game of Thrones. Much of the female characters of Game of Thrones, it's part of the struggle of the time period in the feudal realm they're in. Like it's I'm not saying like, and again, like it's a weird, creepy storyline. I'm not denying that, but that's the point. It's dark. And if you did, and especially when there's like nothing like that at all, where like that character that like has that plot is not even in the season at all till like the very end. Okay. Like, so I can just see why there's people that are like, there's so much backlash, and that leads to this new show which does all sorts of, which is on a basic level, it's boring. Apparently, it's like the CGI is apparently terrible, awful characters. They changed the the lore of how like they literally show like how the realms like get pushed together, which I think is like a thing that we don't need to see. Like it's one of those like kind of big magical events in the past that's better left like in the mysticism of the user. You see like the first Witcher get made in this, and it's an elf, which doesn't make any sense because all the Witchers are human. Like which is like opens a whole can of worms if you're a book fan and know tons of book lore.
I just don't think they know what they're doing.
Exactly. So it's like, why would you not, if you're going to adapt like deep rooted like a series with like a deep history.
Did they do this?
From the 90s.
Let me ask you a question. Was this an overcorrection because of the criticism that they weren't close enough to the books and the game?
No, this is just like Netflix not knowing what they're doing. Like hiring horrible people to shepherd their ideas, or people that think that they know better than like the source material of like, you know, the original.
When is this thing supposed to come out?
This one's already out. This one came out last month. I didn't even know. It's probably the worst reviewed thing of the year.
So it's not.
It has a 13 on Rotten Tomatoes from fans. So and a 33 from critics.
Netflix has gone out of their way without.
I think they've killed their own universe, and it's one of their more popular. Like Witcher has 80 billion views at one point. It's one of the most viewed things on the site.
But once again, so we have one more season with Henry Cavill, which everybody's going to be confused.
And nobody's going to want it anyway. Like,
yeah, it's going to be weird because it's like, but he's leaving, so it's kind of a weird thing anyway.
This is all the showrunner's fault, by the way.
Let me talk. So I don't want to. We've already covered that.
I've covered it enough now.
We got to move on.
But either way, they've shot themselves in the head.
I don't know about something that nobody's watching or likes anyway. But ultimately, so season 3 is not going to be well received. I think it's going to look bad.
Oh, they said it's going to be
gonna be lazy.
To the book. So
Well,
it seems like they're now
it's
a
too late.
little too late.
You can't do it. It's like you might as well have the Snyderverse. Like
Not to mention, there's all sorts of
you kinda
interviews of
blew
her.
it.
There's the biggest trend I've seen recently now.
Now
is
wrap it
like,
up on this because
is
we
the
got
last
8
thing
other
I'll
things to do.
The recent trend, this kind of started with like Benioff and Wise in Game of Thrones with like those after the episode things in the later seasons,
Right.
which are rushed seasons because they wanted to go make Star Wars.
Right.
Like, and they have these interviews, and in these interviews you just see like the sense of the writer, just like they either say things that aren't true or end up going against later on,
Right.
which again makes you less credible. Or then you end up like saying things like Benioff and Wise did, where he'll never live down this one line, which is like an after the episode thing, after like the second dragon in Game of Thrones season 8. Spoilers.
There were dragons in Game of Thrones?
Where like her second dragon gets killed. Like, and
you ruined. Now I gotta go.
By the ship,
might as well watch
by Euron's fleet
of
of like the big things, and it's like, well, Danny forgot about the fleet, and I'm like, Danny forgot about the enemy side's military fleet
that
in a middle
happens in
war
all the time,
and they
man.
just forgot that their
Don't you
fleet
remember
was
when
there.
MacArthur forgot that he was fighting the Japanese? Don't you
Yeah,
remember that?
and she's done a bad job. Like, well, as long as we meet the tone of the books, which is like you're not doing that either.
Right.
It's like
moving on.
Either way, moving on now. What do you have?
So I had a quick one that I forgot to put onto the list, but I wanted to talk about this anyways. Though, did you see the rumor for the next James Bond?
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Aaron Taylor Thomas.
That's good.
Okay,
Johnson.
Johnson. Sorry.
Yeah.
I looked at this. Obviously, he's in Bolton. He's in Tenet.
He's very good.
This is the best one I've seen.
Is he in Tenet?
Yeah.
Who's he in Tenet?
I don't
Is he
remember.
the
I never
captain?
remember any of the character
Wait,
names.
is he the captain in Tenet?
I think so. Yeah.
I don't think I realized that. Okay.
Yeah. He's been in a bunch of other things. He's a good actor.
I like the military guy. At least.
Yeah. I've
He
seen
might
a
not be
bunch. I've
captain.
seen a bunch of things, and quick thing. Obviously, he's good looking enough. He's the right age. He's early.
Yeah,
30s.
he's like 30s.
He's
yeah.
early, see, and then we've talked about this before. I was big on
He
you
looks
can't.
younger, too.
Most of the other names, I've been saying you need a relatively unknown, and I think this guy fits the bill. I mean, obviously
And
he's an
I
established.
don't think he had the look a couple years ago, but I think he has
Right.
the look now.
No,
so.
he's much. You can't
He's
get.
matured a bit
You
in the
don't
last,
want a
like-
20-something.
Yeah.
You want an
He's almost
early
too
30s guy
youthful.
because he's and again, let's be honest.
Yeah, James Gunn he can't be too youthful. You're right.
He's like 32.
Yeah.
So, because again, you don't become a James Bond. You don't come up like a 007 in like 20 when you're 22. It's not like you get out of college. Like they're going to give you a bunch of things, and he's supposed to. And I don't think he's going to be new James Bond. I think he's going to be established already.
Yeah,
I don't
they
think it's going
already
to
did
be
the new
like it's
thing.
not going to be his first mission or anything. He's just going to be 007. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know if they're going to make it like Dread Pirate Roberts that he's taking over the name.
Yeah, I guess that's we're just gonna have to find.
we
that
don't
out.
know
Like,
because they're not recasting everybody else.
I think they should. I think they're just gonna dread. I think
they're going to just yada yada yada.
I think we have
I've
a
been reading a
universe
lot.
now,
I've been reading
right?
them all about this.
Like-
so I think they're going to yada 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 it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not going to say, "Oh, by the way, you took over for the other guy." They're just going to pretend it's that no one talks about.
Just
it.
like the old movies.
They no one never acknowledged
That happened
that.
to the old movies. Like it was like
Just don't make it into anything. Don't make it into
Just listen to,
anything.
like, Moneypenny in
You
the
can
old
do a
movies,
little
like-
wink, wink, nod, nod thing
Yeah.
if you want.
because they had the same Moneypenny with
My
like 3 bonds,
understanding
right?
is-
No answer.
yeah,
Like, am I right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's all everybody that was brought into the Daniel Craig universe is the same people throughout.
so they're
Obviously,
keeping like all the other side.
yeah, like the
characters,
new
though?
M, like what's his name, Fuentes.
So I think it's implied.
They're going to
that-
keep Q. They're going to keep.
I think you can have it be implied then, and almost in honor of.
Yeah.
This is the new timeline essentially, whereas like all the old movies are their own kind of timeline, and it's very loose and not Are they all one thing or no? Like, or were they just kind of like all standalone? And
Nobody
you can kind
worried
of
about
imagine
that
them,
in the 1960s
or is it just
and
kind of like we
70s?
didn't nobody? That's what I figured.
Nobody
like,
gave a shit.
Exactly.
So now we're two more.
Are there any movies like at all that deal with like a previous thing?
No.
For like, because obviously certain characters reappear,
Well, no,
right?
no. Let me rephrase that.
Like
Let me-
certain villains.
Let me answer that question. So there are James Bond, like the bald guy with the cat. That
Yeah.
guy is the same actor in a Roger Moore era that's also in
Mm-hmm.
Sean Connery. So my opinion would be that if you're looking from it from an outside standpoint, it's supposed to. They're thinking it's just a recast. I think Roger Moore and Sean Connery, we're supposed to accept that somehow that's just a recast. But then I think when you get to like Timothy Dalton, they don't know what the hell it is. Once they get to Pierce Brosnan, I think Pierce Brosnan is supposed to be a starting over, so to speak.
Okay,
it's almost supposed to be like he's really Sean Connery. I think he's supposed to be like Sean Connery.
Okay.
And then, because you got to remember, like Judi Dench she's his boss in that
that's
movie.
right, yeah.
So the only person that kind of survived when they switched from Pierce Brosnan to Daniel Craig was why wouldn't
Judy
you?
went.
Because
Yeah,
Judy,
Judi
because
Dench, yeah.
you know,
Dame
she's
Judi Dench.
the dame, man. She's like she's a national treasure,
Yeah,
as they
so-
say in Spirited. But I think then we get a definitive start with Daniel Craig. So I think we're going to get that kind of weird thing. Age-wise,
Yeah, they don't need to mention in a movie that
no,
he's the Dread Pirate Robert. They
he's-
don't need to mention that
they're-
concept.
Right.
But like,
we're
it
not
can-
going to see. Here's what we won't see.
Yeah, it might be like hinted to.
Here's what we won't see.
the previous James Bond's
Let me
grave.
give you my
It's
predictions.
like- it's-
We are not going to see the Aston Martin because that thing got blown to shit.
The same
and
one.
it was Daniel Craig's James
They
Bond's
rebuilt
car.
it.
So that we will not
It's
see.
piece by
They're
piece.
going to go with a different car.
They welded it
Maybe
together.
down the road in a third or fourth movie, he'll say, "Hey, I like this car," and then they can make a wink, wink.
It's
but
not
we
every
won't.
movie, is it?
It's
Aston Martin
been in
is
most of the
Isn't it only
movies.
like two of them?
It's in a lot of the earlier
Is it in the last
movies.
one? Is it three of them, right?
Roger Moore never had one. Dalton never had one. Pierce Brosnan never
Isn't it
had
in all
one.
the good ones?
I don't want to get into debate.
Well, I think that here's my
because I like
here's
Pierce
my-
Brosnan, James Bond.
No,
an awful lot.
no. I'm just talking about I'm talking about Craig. I'm
They're
talking
in
about
all Daniel Craig's.
the Aston
And it's
Martin-
the same
the
car.
Aston Martins in all 5 movies.
It's in all of them. Even if it's not used, it's like one of them is just like on like brick.
No, I mean
It's
like
on-
used. I mean like more because like it's used in
it
1,
has an
3, and
appearance-
5, right?
It has an appearance in every. I don't. It might not be in the second one because he's like it's
In
a
the desert.
continuation.
And then in 4, I don't think
Yeah.
he has it either. I think he has it in 5 because he's in the city that at the beginning.
No, but it's being rebuilt. I think we see it
In
like
4 it's getting
and they're
rebuilt.
rebuilding it.
Yeah, in 4 it's getting rebuilt because like it got blown
'Cause it
up in
blown
the
up
previous
in
one
Skyfall.
in Skyfall. So all the good ones, all the good Daniel Craig James Bond movies, he uses the car.
All right. Well, this is.
So
I don't want to
1,
go off on
3,
this
and
tangent.
5.
All right, let me talk about
It's
this.
like-
So I think they're going to dread Pirate Robert
Yeah.
said. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get the girl that's 008. I think we'll get a guest appearance.
I mean, I would think it would make sense. Like if you just have more agents, like you can build off. Like all these companies want damn universes,
And then do a
so,
friggin'
like,
spinoff
I
with
don't
the
think
girl.
I don't know if they'll give her a spinoff, but at least like,
She
you can have,
deserves
like,
a friggin'
more
spinoff.
built
And bring
universe.
back the girl
Yeah,
from
she
the.
was good
Remember
in
the
that.
other girl that was fighting in the last one? The one that was like the kick-ass girl.
Actually, you know what they're doing with her? I think she did so well in that she got a John Wick spinoff.
Oh, good.
Right.
Right.
She has a
We've already-
like so literally I think
Yeah.
she did so good in that as like a kind of secret agent type thing that they literally gave her a John Wick spinoff.
Yeah.
Which is essentially like in the same ballpark. So
Well, I looked at.
probably even will be a more fun tone.
I looked
so.
at his. I looked at Aaron Taylor Johnson's like IMDb. He's like
Yeah.
he's like 5'11". He's like 32. Like I just think he's perfect. He has the right look, especially if they get him into the gym a little bit and they do some stuff.
Is he only, how old is he? 5'11"? 5'11", you said?
What?
You said 5'11"?
He's 5'11" or
Okay,
something.
that's about right.
Yeah, he's
he
not.
need to be massive.
He's
like,
not supposed to be
Daniel
like.
Craig isn't like
Even Henry
overbearing,
Cavill's too tall for James Bond.
He's a little bit too much of like a hulking
But it's weird because a lot of people online kind of comparing to Pierce Brosnan as James Bond, which is kind of
it
like
makes sense,
I kind of agree with that. So
Yeah.
I mean, if they would have
guess it
got
depends on
if
your
they could have
own
got Henry
personal-
Cavill at 32, all into it. But
Yeah.
it's too late for Henry Cavill.
Well, I mean,
it's,
think of
you
Man
know,
from I think
it's too late for.
Want to know what they're
you know,
thinking of? They're thinking of Man from U.N.C.L.E. Not that a lot of people have seen that
Well,
movie, but
yeah,
like,
they
that's
blew it on
kind of
that
like,
because that could have been a really good universe if they wouldn't have fucked that up.
Man,
you know?
well, to be fair, that first movie just didn't. The first movie's. Do people like that movie?
No.
Really?
Okay, let me put it this
No,
way.
people like
Nobody went to see it.
No, and that's the only thing. Nobody went to see it. But
And
from
it's-
what I
you don't
remember,
see it on TV
but from
or
what I
anything.
remember, people actually seem to like the 3 like agents we get. But if I remember correctly, the villain is horrifically bland.
And
if I remember,
it's also and it also just didn't bite with anybody. Like it never caught on.
But like, wasn't that like I forget what the girl was, but it was no, it was Vikander. It was at least it was Vikander, right? Who's in
I don't know. And I don't want to start talking about things I don't remember.
Yeah, but that was Fassbender was in that too, right? He was the Russian guy.
I don't remember. Like it, because again, it's not. It's you don't see it. It's not on TV. Like it's not something.
I
that
remember decent. Kind of
like I don't even know where it is on streaming. I have to go look for it. So, so we also wanted to talk about Bad Batch and then all the stuff coming out. Mm-hmm. What do you want to? You had an Ezra Miller thing too.
I think they debunked that. I think Gunn. There's all these weird every week. Like fucking James Gunn has to come out and swat down rumors. Essentially,
I think we have to just forget everything that comes out with DC unless we get it from James.
Because there was something that was like Warner Brothers execs were open to Ezra. For them staying on,
and that
as
seems
as
to
the
be
Flash,
fake too. So
I think he didn't say no, that's not true, but they made it seem like that report doesn't have a lot of validity.
I think from now on we just have to see what James Gunn has to say.
Yeah, but either way,
James Gunn said he's got a 10-year plan.
Yeah.
He reiterated the other day he's got a 10-year plan. And I forget the number of movies that he said, 2 movies a year plus some TV shows.
In case anyone's confused, we're talking about that there was a rumor that certain execs at Warner Brothers were fine with Ezra Miller,
but not,
potentially coming back as the Flash.
Yeah, because that's not problematic.
They said something like since they haven't done anything since their mental health deterioration in the summer, which is like, bro, this has been going on for years.
It's criminal too.
Like there's criminal stuff that have been going on.
It's not just mental health.
Like the first incident was
in
20.
He's not Charlie Sheen, where he just was making weird choices that were damaging himself.
The first incident, honestly, if we're being truthful to this whole episode of the last couple years, was in Iceland. There's a video from 2020 during COVID where they're choking a woman, they were at a bar,
that's not true.
And then he has to get pulled off, if I remember correctly. That was the first thing. So that's not the summer, unfortunately. So
let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on now. What else?
All right, so then we had Bad Batch. Let's come to Bad Batch at the end real quick.
Yeah.
So there's really not a lot in January except streaming.
I have something about The Rock too.
We'll get to that. Last of Us comes out January 15th, and on the same day, Mayor of Kingston with Jeremy Renner's second episode of season comes out.
I think that'll get a lot of views now.
Now everybody, that show's gonna. Although it's
my new conspiracy.
They ran him over with a plow. That's because to get the ratings up. It's a good show.
I hope that's not offensive.
I like the show.
I've heard very good things about Mayor of Kingston.
It's very well performed, but it is the slowest effing burn of all effing time.
Man.
It moves so slow, and I'm like, kill somebody. Run a car over, go get somebody.
Well, that's the weird thing. I think certain actors now, big actors that are kind of seems movie actors, I think they can have pull on TV, but they don't have pull I don't think actors can pull people to the screen anymore. To the theater.
It's funny that you
they
brought that
can
up.
pull people to show like Sylvester Stallone keeps doing stuff you see all what I'm talking about.
No.
Weird,
I read a whole article about this on Variety or something last week. Actually, it's funny that you brought that up. They did a bunch of market research on this. Because what you've got is a generation of people right now that don't want to go out. Mm-hmm. So what it is they're okay, I'm flipping through my various streaming services with my app like I do at 10 o'clock at night trying to decide what to watch. And then I say, oh, my God, Sylvester Stallone's on a TV show. Yeah, I'm going to watch this. Okay, I watched Three Pines with, Doc Ock. Yeah. I was Alpha Marinero, whatever his name is. Mm-hmm. Would I have watched it if I wouldn't have seen a picture of him?
Yeah.
Probably not.
At least he's more of a TV director.
But I know who he is. I know he's a good actor. I know he's in Doc Ock. I know that he was in, the first Indiana Jones movie. I like the actor. I think he's good. And I said, and then I looked at the description. And I said, I'm going to watch this show.
But I think that's what Cavill I think that's what Cavill was trying for, when he got, Geralt. Yeah. And I think, to be fair, he lived up to Geralt. But, the show that
they let him down.
He kind of...
Everybody around him
pretty
pretty much
treated it was that he
I don't even mean the other actors.
There was a level of that he wanted to help shepherd The Witcher to, a good place that the fans,
but
the folks and the show, and they couldn't work together.
He should have, and he was big enough at that point. He should have demanded to be an executive producer.
And now, after all this, he's kind of landed at Amazon with Warhammer, with this new thing that he can adapt,
Right.
which he actually
and
seems
he
to have
went in
yeah.
and he went in and said, "But I want control of this thing."
And that seems to be
at
like,
some level,
yeah.
obviously.
So,
obviously,
so
getting control of
Cavill's
the
next
whole
move,
thing.
instead of getting like say a big movie role, which he might get too.
No, but back to that article.
No, but real quickly though, Cavill's move was like, I'm gonna go and like be a streaming guy. I'm gonna find a show to shepherd and then be the star of, and then I'll be liked because one, I'm good in my show, and then two, I'm shepherding it.
But the article says that both the actors and the production companies and the streaming services are all going back and forth, and they recognize they all know this is the model now.
Yeah.
Like Sylvester
figuring it
Stallone,
out, yeah.
Henry Cavill, Jeremy Renner. These guys all go, and a lot of them are projects that many of them have had in the back of their head for a long time. Some of them the actors, some of them the production companies, and now they kind of get them done because, again, because people are still weary of going to the movie theaters.
Yeah.
And there's a whole big other dynamic in movie theaters right now. But now people are looking back to television, but this isn't a new thing because back in the 70s, like Telly Savalas was sick of working on Savalas was sick of working on films because there was too much of a grind. So he said, you know what? I'm going to work for 8 months, do Kojak, be the biggest star in television because I was a huge movie star, but I can go home for 4 months. We're going to film it in Los Angeles, so I go back to my couch every night when I'm done filming, and and it was so. And then we got out of that in the 80s, but now we're kind of back to that, like really what some of the shows in the 70s were. Not that it was as big in the 70s, but like Rock Hudson, a lot of big stars ended up on TV, traditional network shows back in the 70s. Obviously, we didn't have streaming. So, all right, so those are the big streaming ones. Then we get to February and March where you're going to have to live in the movie theaters. I'm just going to go through the list quick. February 15th, Winnie the Pooh horror movie is coming out, as well as this one I'm very excited about. Liam Neeson as Philip Marlowe in Marlowe. It's a 1930s down on his luck detective, the original detective with the fedora. All the film noir stuff,
all based on
all of it is Philip Marlowe. I mean, it's Chandler. I mean, and I'm interested to see Liam Neeson.
I just never know
what
Liam Neeson's gonna do because like every other Liam Neeson movie is a fucking Taken ripoff. I think they can't. Philip Marlowe, if they go Taken or like, I can't believe Liam Neeson was like the main character.
If
in, like,
they go
Taken, like, in what's that one movie from the '90s called the really dark Spielberg one? What am I talking about?
Star Wars?
No, not what? No, the
Liam
beginning.
Neeson?
Yeah, isn't Liam Neeson in
The Bear?
No, it's like in the 1933, 1993, Nazi movie.
Oh, Google it and look it up.
What? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, Schindler's List.
Yes, like I can't believe like that dude was like that was like his not first big, one of his major like first big roles.
Yes.
And now the dude's just known for doing Taken.
Well,
movies.
that's why he's
like,
going to be so good when they do Naked Gun. So he's going to parody himself in Naked Gun, which will be great.
That's better.
I'm interested because I think Philip Marlowe is a chance for him to kind of just be an actor again and get away from it. Because again, it'll be 1940s film noir and all that stuff, and like it's a movie Grandma will like and all that stuff. And then obviously the 17th of February got Ant-Man. February 20th, this is the biggest movie of the year.
I probably shouldn't have called Schindler's List a Nazi movie. That's not the best way to describe that film.
Nazis
That's a movie with Nazis in it.
Every movie in it is now a Nazi movie, according to me. So Indiana Jones is a Nazi movie. Raiders Lost Ark is a Nazi movie. It's a movie about Nazis.
I just felt that wasn't a good way to describe that film.
As Indiana Jones would say, Nazis, I hate these guys.
Yeah, sure.
Which is one of the greatest. I love the one-liners. I love one of the Indiana Jones one-liners are great. Like, I
hate these guys.
One's like Nazis. I hate these guys. I like Ike. That's a good one. I like. Or even the other one I really like is, oh shit, it just fell out of my head. But I mean, there's just so many good ones. Like, I just like the one-liners they came up with. Okay.
Bad Bash. What are we talking about?
Well, no, I'm not done yet. I got to go through. So, but then the biggest movie of the year is coming out February 20th, Cocaine Bear.
Oh, we're seeing that. We're doing that opening night.
March 3rd, we got Creed 3 with no Stallone.
Oh yeah, because he thought they stole the IP or something.
I don't really give a shit.
We gotta talk when that comes.
He's in Tulsa
tell you what,
now.
when that comes around Creed, we'll talk about that whole situation because it's kind of funny.
Creed probably. I mean, Stallone was good for the Creed movies, but they don't really. Hopefully, they don't need him moving on.
Yeah.
March 17th is Shazam.
He feels like he should have more creative.
Okay, here's the thing. Here's the big debate I want to have about this. March 17th, you have Shazam coming out, and the same day we also have coming out 65 with Adam Driver. Now, I watched this trailer this morning, and I'm very interested in this movie. So
I don't know what the fuck's going on in that trailer.
All right, let me explain to you what this movie is. So the movie, I'm going to give you the premise from what I can tell in the trailer. So Adam Driver is flying a spaceship, and his cargo is a bunch of people in stasis, and they are exploring, very Star Trek-y, looking for new planets to live on. Now, we're not sure if these are humans or what these people are. They crash. They get hit by an asteroid, which I'm assuming is going to be the meteor that ended all the dinosaurs, because they end up on Earth 65 million years ago in the middle of the Jurassic era. So he crashes. I think everybody on the ship dies.
Do we know they're on Earth?
Well, they're dinosaurs.
Maybe they're just on a planet with dinosaurs, Dad.
Okay, well that's
maybe they're
so they crash land.
A different planet with dinosaurs.
You said let me do the synopsis. So 65 million years ago, this is where Adam Driver is stuck
on Mars.
He's got all his modern, like Star Wars-y, Star Trek looking phasers and bombs and shit. Yeah. And then he's the only person that survives is a little girl that was in stasis. So I'm assuming it's the daughter of the family that was in stasis. And then he's got to he calls for a rescue mission. Come get us. And it's mainly him and her, and they're got to like run away. It's very dark. It looks like it's part horror, part action. It's kind of like he's kind of like Ripley in Aliens. He's got to protect the little girl. It's kind of like Planet of the Apes because I think it's going to be like,
well, it's like
oh my God,
future tech
it's
like
Earth
future
all
tech
along.
Yeah, probably.
It's Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
It's Land of the Lost, not the stupid Will Ferrell one. It's
the CG of dinosaurs didn't look bad.
It also reminds me of an old movie that I watched when I was a kid called Lost World, not Jurassic World, Lost World.
Yeah.
But the original Lost World, which is like a 1970 flick where they go on an island, there's dinosaurs.
I mean, I didn't
stuff.
hate the CGI of the dinosaurs, and I feel like just because like
it's
a dinosaur. Well, I think there's only like one Jurassic Park movie that makes the dinosaurs look good. Maybe that gets the other. I don't remember like the sequels, like the original two sequels that much. But I think the dinosaurs only look good in Jurassic Park, like in the first one. Because in Jurassic World, they're just all CG models, and you don't have any realism like the original.
The first one, I mean, obviously, like there's
they feel so fake.
You look at the original one now, and there's kind of some aspects where you kind of realize that they look fake, but they were really good for their time. And all the other CG,
but they're physical at least. Like you know what I mean? Like,
well, it's a combination.
In a lot of scenes,
it's a combination of a lot of different things.
Yeah.
The way they did it, I think, was genius. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, they do.
Whereas like nobody's like overly impressed by like say any of the CGI dinosaurs in Jurassic World.
No, it was very cut and paste after that.
Yeah, like there was no awe with the dinosaurs from Jurassic World.
But they weren't. There's very few dinosaurs in the original ones that Spielberg did that I think are like that's crap. Yeah. I think they were cut and paste, but they were all good.
Yeah,
like the second and the third one were fine. Jurassic World's dinosaurs.
I mean, they're
bad.
fine CG, but they're just like they're just generic.
The ones after that aren't great. The last one, Dominion, obviously people liked it.
They have some they tried to incorporate some moments like in the like with physical models and stuff occasionally, but just didn't work.
And here's my prediction for March 17th.
Yeah. 65 like future versus past.
Again, let's be honest.
That's cool.
This is Adam Driver.
Adam Driver's is popular,
and I'm not saying that he draws people in because he's Adam Driver.
Yeah.
I think this movie is going to do very well because Adam Driver is a very good actor.
Yeah.
And I think he does action very well. And I think Adam Driver's 65 beats Shazam. It's going to be a better movie.
It depends on I don't know how much. Whose film is this?
What's his face? The horror movie guy.
Del Toro?
No. I
had a. No. I mean, like, I meant to. That's a good question too. Actually, who directed this, and also, now who's releasing it? Like, whose like studio is this?
I gotta look it back
because that'll give me an idea of like how much like. But then again, I was just saying earlier, I don't think they're barely promoting Shazam at this point. Like, Shazam's out in like what? Is Shazam out in February or March?
So it's directed by it's directed by Scott Beck, but it's. And Brian Woods, but it's produced by, oh God, who was it produced by? I had it somewhere. It's Raimi. It's Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi.
So like it's his film. Sony distributing it, which is, Sony's, and it's going to get a worldwide audience because it's going to China, it's going to Argentina, it's going to be all over the world.
Okay, so then maybe they think they have not a franchise or like a new like.
I don't think they're caring about a franchise. I think they just want to make a good movie.
Yeah, I think no. That's what I'm saying. It's like it seems like they have an original concept that they're backing.
Yeah.
Which is anytime one of these films actually with an actor like that makes it to fruition, good.
Because you had a new one. Because this is a new
it'll
movie.
Be good.
This is a combination of a lot of ideas from a bunch of other movies.
It's old stuff, but like it's familiar, but like it is new.
But
this is a newer concept.
It's a character piece.
It's like
too.
future weapons versus dinosaurs.
Yeah,
it's
it's phasers versus like a dinosaur.
Yeah, like sci-fi versus dinosaur.
Right. And have we seen that yet?
No, it's a simple concept, but we haven't seen it.
And they didn't call it dinosaurs versus spaceman.
They're also taking another very popular concept nowadays, which is the older protector, like looking after a pseudo child, which is Witcher does.
It's a trope.
Game of Thrones does.
It's a trope. Who cares?
That's
it's
why
a good trope.
Last of Us does it.
I mean, it's
Last of Us does it best actually.
And again, he probably doesn't like children and all that stuff. And that's why I think the meteor that hits the Earth is the same meteor that caused the extinction of the dinosaurs.
Oh
they won't say that because like, well, I guess these dinosaurs.
They deflected it.
No,
they deflected the meteor, so the dinosaurs aren't going to go extinct.
Well, maybe that's why the meteor,
franchise right
maybe
there.
Maybe the meteor hit the Earth because the spaceship was in the way, and it's his fault.
I don't think that's how meteors
But the way the movie's shot, it's really dark.
I don't think a ship.
No.
Yeah,
Let me explain. The movie shot. So most of the shots that I saw look like there's some sunlight, but a lot of it looks really dark.
Like
so I don't know if that's because there's the cloud of dust from the impact crater.
I'm pretty sure that
I'm making that part up completely.
That the cloud of dust from the impact crater like blocked out the sun.
Yeah, I know that's why it's dark.
No, but I think it was like pitch black.
I don't know. If that's true.
It's like I think it was like we had like eternal winter.
I don't
for
know
like,
if that
for
was.
Like,
I don't think it was.
I'm pretty sure the world.
black.
I'm pretty sure most of the world ended during that period.
They did, but
like,
he may not be in the area where like it's
so
bad.
they're somewhere else. Yeah. Like,
well, because again, closer to the
do we even
impact
know it's
crater
Earth?
was.
Do we even know if it's gonna be Earth?
It's gonna be Earth.
Why?
No, because they say it.
Isn't that obvious though?
They say it in the trailer.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They ended up. I don't know if the ship went in the time travel or they're just from a planet.
They time traveled or
they were just, basically they're just a spaceship. From
they're doing like a human seed.
They're just
myth.
a human. They seeded the Earth.
Yeah, they're doing that.
No, that's
shit.
stupid. That's stupid because he's not having sex with a little girl. Nobody wants to see that.
Maybe they'll find another woman in a crate.
So February and March look pretty good.
In a bio crate.
But then March has got 2 more good movies coming out because you got March 24th, you got John Wick 4, and then March 31st, you got Dungeons.
John Wick 4? Is that still called John Wick?
Aren't they all John Wick?
No, but like I'm pretty sure this movie's just called John Wick again, like the first one.
I don't know. John Wick 4. I'm calling it what it is.
All right.
And then Dungeons and Dragons.
I actually like we like the look of that.
So I mean, I think we got to go to the movies a lot in February and March.
I think so. Yeah. So you looked good. This year looks good.
I'm looking, and I think I want to go to the movie theater.
We can do a wider.
I don't want to watch this shit on my couch. I mean, I'm on my couch every night. Well, not every night, but I mean, pretty much. Yeah. And I don't want to I got a big TV. Oh, fuck you. Just get out of the house.
All right, let me do my rock thing real quick. So like during the this is I think we've talked about like how the Rock was like how everything screwed up with Black Adam obviously and now like there's not much going on with
go back to wrestling.
So like there's all sorts of reports that come out now about him kind of leading up to like the release of Black Adam of like he wanted a producer credit on like the League, like that. Remember that cartoon movie that he has like a cameo in like the end of?
Sure. No, I don't.
No,
I don't
remember League of Super Pets or whatever the fuck it's called?
Yeah.
He has a cameo in the end of that where they have like a dog version of him and then like a animated version of him.
Doesn't make any sense.
Just to promote Black Adam, which was the most corny thing I've ever seen. Yeah. But he barely did anything to promote that movie.
He wanted
a producer credit. Or like
on the Pets movie?
Yeah, on the Pets movie. He also wanted a tequila bar at the premiere of the Pets movie, which was
does he sell tequila?
Because he sells fucking tequila. Okay. It was his branded tequila. It's at a cartoon movie, at a PG movie.
Well,
he wanted a tequila bar.
Granted, there probably weren't.
They don't do that. Like
there probably weren't a lot of kids at the movie.
No, they don't put. No, that's literally at openings like that. They do. They have kids. Like that's who the type of people they bring. They invite influencers that are children.
So your argument, I just want to make it clear. Your argument is none of these kids know what alcohol is, and then they can't.
No, I'm not saying like
not
it's so.
gonna sell
I'm not
it to
saying
him.
it's so offensive that like, but I'm saying it rubs people.
Hey, Junior, would you like a shot of
I'm
this
not saying
crappy ass
I'm
tequila?
I'm not saying I'm offended by like them putting Terramana tequila like bar at any movie premiere, but like in terms of PR, it's not a move that like a company makes, like very obviously.
Yo, man.
And also, he was doing all this shit, and like then obviously was like trying to pitch like this multi-year plan behind the
just so you know,
scenes.
I'm doing the people's eyebrow right now.
Like there was like everything was literally in flux at DC. And
Is it the people's tequila?
sure, man, I don't give a fuck. It's like everything's in flux over at DC and Warner Brothers. Like, there's obviously like they're trying to hire someone. He manages to get that like cameo like approved somehow. Like when like
He's a Rock man.
like the Cavill fires his Rock's ex-wife manager, who's all part of this setup. Like immediately after all this fiasco, like he wants the end of this plan was the culmination of a fight between Black Adam, I think someone described him as like a B-list character in a B-list character's like. It's like a B-list characters in a B-list character story,
right?
Like to fight Superman just because he's The Rock, and then this all culminated with a dud because the movie made $400 million. Like, so that was
Biggest
it.
Movie of the
like
year,
off
man.
of like.
Biggest movie of the
Like
year.
barely broke even, so there was no point of all this. So like he like pretended like this character would do well or would make billions and billions of dollars and promoted the hell out of it for months and months and months, all while ruffling feathers in almost every direction, like other actors, executives, the new executives that were going to come over and take over DC. He made everyone mad. Every single person couldn't get past his own ego for like a producer credit and for like getting a tequila bar with his own brand. Like, and not to mention, I'm relatively sure I remember an interview of this dude talking about like getting Marvel and DC together, like to have a movie where they get crossover, but that he would make it happen. That like Dwayne The Rock Johnson, will be the usher of like the DC versus. What the fuck? It's like you're just pandering. Like, what are you doing, bud? Like,
who's Black Adam fighting the Hulk? Thor?
He's gonna fight an equivalent character. He can fight fucking Winter
Thor?
Soldier. He can fight like he can fight Korg. He can fight an equivalent character. This Korg movie would have made about $400 million too.
He can fight Drax.
You know, he can fight Shang-Chi. That movie made $400 million.
Speaking of that,
he can fight Shazam. He can fight his villain.
Nobody wants that.
Which
you
wouldn't do.
Nobody wants that.
That's what he should have done, though.
All right,
like,
so my comment on that is that God. Like, and that goes back to conversations we've had before about, you know, actors that are getting too big for the britches, so to speak. And we saw Johnny Depp do that a little
you're
bit.
Not even a good actor.
Like,
it's like you're the most plastic. It's like what Rock film?
Speaking of that,
no, real quick.
I want to get to what
this is the last thing I'll say.
Yeah,
about The Rock.
you're fine.
Is The Rock? Yes, a lot of years he is like the most well-paid actor. Cool, whatever. Congrats. Like, it's cool. You have a good brand. Like, you're a lot of people like The Rock too. Like he's a lot of people's like him for his movie star.
Show,
and at least on some level,
tequila.
he's a draw because but usually that draw is making shitty action movies that suck. But at least there's a draw of The Rock, and he plays the same character. What Rock movie is going to live on in cinema? Like, that's what Bautista was talking about the other day. With
I want to get to Bautista and wrap. Before you get to that, I want to answer that question. And we said this on a previous one. When it comes down to it, the reason why The Rock is successful is because he was easy bank, because his movies weren't super expensive, because he was the only one in the movie making any real money, except maybe the ones with Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart probably made some good money too. But he was another character in the Fast and Furious films where, you know, but he wanted into that franchise. So he probably took a bit of a deal because he wanted to be in that franchise so he could use it.
As big then.
But when it comes down to it, most of the movies, whether it's the one where the earth is on collapse, the earthquake one, or the building on fire one, or the one where he's on the Jungle Cruise,
listen, there's a
or the one where he's in a video game a couple times, or all of them, they're not expensive movies.
No, not particularly.
They're all pretty cheap movies, and they make a lot of good money because they're usually pretty
But they
family friendly.
But they also don't make incredibly high amounts of money because
No,
he's making incredibly plastic
again,
movies that are designed to.
But again, most people just want 2 hours, an hour and 45 minutes of entertainment, and something that they can play back on TV because there's not a bunch of
But it's
F-bombs.
very formulaic in a way that we know it'll make this amount of money to make this, and it almost comes across and through the narrative.
Someone showed me a formula online one time. Not me personally, but I saw it in an article like why they make certain movies like at an hour and like 50-something minutes or whatever it is. And the reason why is that if they put it into syndication on TV, if you put in the commercial breaks, it lines up to like 2.5 hours or 3 hours. So they actually schedule the movie at a certain length, I think, so they can actually get it to line up so they can put it on TV within
they can
put it on TBS or something.
I just literally pulled this up. There's this picture on like that.
Where he wears the same color shirt.
Where there's like look.
He's got a tan shirt on. Where like every
people
film.
pop up all over Twitter where it's like this. It's like The Rock. And
what movie is this?
And it's 4 frames.
Yeah,
and it's like
he's wearing the tan tight shirt.
And it's like he's in like a
it's like a hen.
Jungle,
it's like a hen.
And he's in like kind of like a tan.
It's like a henny.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, Henley,
it's like a button up sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then the one he has
it's a Henley.
And then the one he has like a T-shirt on.
But they're always that same color. They're always that same.
But it's like these are 4 different movies.
Yeah.
These are.
Which movie is this?
It's like, look,
I know I've seen that thing. So all right. So to wrap that up, I think the best burn out of all of this is Dave Bautista. Yeah. Because Dave Bautista, obviously a similar kind of path, so to speak. And he came out and said he's like, and because I guess it was an article talking about how he's done with Drax, which is good because everybody's done. We're not going to see those characters again. And
not all of them. So I think some might stay, but
whatever. Regardless, the point is
most of them are going to move on.
I liked his comments. He's like, I don't need to be the biggest star in the world. I want to be an actor. Mm-hmm. And I like the fact that he's willing. And when we looked at his body,
his IMDb's sick. Like his IMDb is, I genuinely.
He's funny.
I love the movies he's in. Like genuinely, like
he's funny.
Like
he's good at what he does. So he's funny in in the
Guardians movie. Drax is more than just like a very because Drax is a silly character, but like that takes what he does with Drax. It's kind of simple, but it is talent. Like there's like not anyone in the world.
He
could
was
pull
really
off
good.
Drax.
He's very good in Dune.
But say that, like I love Dune. I kind of like the James Bond movie he's in. It's not my favorite one, but he's fine in it.
He's fine in the James Bond movie,
and he's cool in the role.
He's really good in that couple scenes that he has in Blade Runner.
I love him in those sines in Blade. Which the same director as Dune, and brought him back.
And let's be honest, what's good about it is that
he's a lovely human. Lovely, absolutely, like a great. Like I don't know if you ever just listen to like any interviews with him or like any videos that he's being like he's such a and everyone just says like beautiful, like just beautiful soul. So great guy.
Because for example, we talk, like
humble, like
it's tough for Dave Bautista because he can't play Hercule Poirot. Like he can't be. He can't be what Daniel Craig is in Glass Onion. He can't, because he's a physical type. But when he plays the characters that he plays, you don't look at them and say, well, that he's just playing Drax again. Like that guy that he plays in Glass Onion doesn't remind you of anything else he plays. Like it's kind of like he's almost picking on like Tyson Fury or somebody. He's almost picking on The Rock, maybe.
Yeah,
he's picking on a lot of different people
significantly less
with that character.
Well, he's making fun of influencers because he even said like he's the first. I know this a lot because like I watch streams and stuff like that occasionally. Like he's like says like I'm the first guy to ever get banned from Twitch, which is like a big thing. There are plenty of like streamers over the years that are like kind of towed the edge of like with their content and like I forget what the word, because obviously that the whole point of Glass Onion is like these are all like people that have like towed the edge of what is like acceptable in society, and they're all like they're all different versions of kind of the same coin in our society. And I do like that. Did we finish that movie?
No, we got interrupted with something.
But
it was during the holidays. We got to finish the movie.
Yeah, but the start was obviously like we had like an Elon Musk cause obviously that's what Norton's character very clearly was, like kind of like a con man, like fake genius sort of thing. You had like an act of like a politician, like a straight up like House member. I think the one woman was like a girl from what's it called, WandaVision. I'm blanking on her name, but she's pretty good. Like a kind of immoral scientist. Like it's all these different like kind of like actors that you see that are like these noisy actors in our society these days, like this kind of new like way of like kind of branding yourself, and that's what kind of like he did a very good job of playing a caricature of like this of like the boisterous kind of dumb like kind of say it how it is, like influencer on like say Twitch or like TikTok.
No, he's a nice
YouTube.
like. I mean, a lot of all the characters in that movie are all kind of like
they're a little on the nose at times.
But they're all combinations of other versions of them, which I thought was pretty cool.
Like,
All right, so but I liked what he said that he just wants to be a good actor. I don't need to read the article, but like on the air, but like. What he said was really cool, and
he wants to be
a
respected actor. He said too, like he just wants to, like, and he is like
he's 53,
like his versatility,
you know,
like you look across his films, his versatility is way more than like most like say John Cena or
I mean, I hope I don't see him in like a Fast and Furious movie. Like I think he's parlaying.
Like he's certainly at another level. Like I think he's just an actor at this point. Like I think
I would agree with that.
He's like The Rock is still like the guy. Yeah, I guess The Rock is an actor too, but like I guess The Rock is always. But but there's a reason he's still called The Rock.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a reason that, like, when people think of The Rock, like, think of Dwayne
The Rock Johnson.
It's The Rock before he is, like, the Dwayne Johnson. Like,
well, you know, and here's why Bautista was, like, smart, because when he was a wrestler,
like,
he was just
Batista bomb every time you see Batista. Like, no, you think of the actor. You think of, like, every, like, moment that he was ever doing WWE.
He was also
when
smart
you see
his wrestler name was just the same name without the
even
U.
the fucking stupid smolder that fucking, that Dwayne, the stupid thing that you were doing, the eye, that's called, like, the smolder.
The people's
that thing, which is, again, from WWE, which he fucking bleeds into actual movie characters 30 years later. So, like, because he can't think of anything original. Like, he's just going with the same old, same old.
Well,
whereas,
it works,
like,
and
this
he's
guy,
fucking
it works. People like it. Like,
but then don't claim that you're, like, going to be in, you're going to be in,
but don't
Schindler's
act,
List.
but be what you are. Don't act like you're. It's the Vin Diesel effect. That you're making things that people like.
Well,
they like them for a certain reason.
They're not
great though.
Let me make a point.
You made something enjoyable.
Let me
That's
make a
different
point.
than making something great.
Schindler's List.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Schindler's List.
Sure.
You got to cast a Nazi, SS guy that's fucking scary.
There's levels.
Who's supposed to be a little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And your choices are Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or Dave Bautista. Who got the part?
Well, I mean, I don't know, but
it's a rhetorical question because everybody on the planet just casted Dave Bautista.
I mean, you're just talking about just on pure chops of like being able to do it acting.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Then yeah.
Dave Bautista can be in an Oscar movie. He's in a movie that's got tons of Oscar nominees around him in Glass Onion.
I think
The Rock's never getting the part in Glass Onion.
No, like that's what I'm saying. Like The Rock doesn't have any roles in any movie like that.
I can see Dave Bautista at 60. He's 52.
Movies.
Let me talk.
Yeah.
Dave Bautista at 70 can play other characters.
Mm-hmm.
The Rock can't do that when he's 70. He can't take how many more roids or whatever he's doing to keep his body type
and
up.
there are films.
Yes.
There are movies.
Okay, that's another way of looking. Yes, that's
and The Rock.
It's the same point that
The Rock
I'm
is never.
Right.
I mean, I think The Rock has maybe been in one film, Pain and Gain. I think Pain and Gain is probably the only thing that I can think of where like he's slightly more like far away from his character than he usually is, and that's years ago at this point.
Here's the only caveat that I'll make on that, because Stallone.
Pain and Gain isn't great either.
Here's the caveat I'll make on that. Let's go to Stallone.
Mm-hmm.
Stallone did all those things till he was in his 50s. And then realized he couldn't do Rambo forever, and he couldn't be Rocky forever. At least within that
Rambo and Rocky are different characters. Like they're not the same.
No, but they're
just a gruff guy. He'd be both ways, but they're not doing the same thing.
But
like
the Stallone started to try some other things. He tried a couple comedies which were terrible. Then he did that movie with
Judge
De Niro. Dredd. No, because he always would go back to his base.
Yeah,
but then. Because they would give him too much money for those movies. But then he did that movie where he was like a small town cop in a suburb of New York City, and he like gained all this weight, and he was out of shape, and it was like De Niro and Harvey Keitel. It's a really, really good movie where he's got to take on corrupt police officers, and he got a lot of like quality acting recognition for his abilities in that movie. And then so then he went and did those stupid movies where he was the agent, what's the one with all the action heroes in it? The Expendables. But then but Stallone has found ways to also still be an actor. So maybe The Rock at some point realizes he's got to stop being The Rock and try to be.
No, that's what I'm
and
saying.
try to be
there
an
are
actor.
Plenty of actors, and I'm saying like there are plenty
So
of.
maybe he will evolve, but he hasn't evolved
and
yet.
let me cover my bases here.
Yeah.
Like there are plenty of actors that do both movies like and films, like they do both.
Dave
And there's
Bautista.
and plenty of there's plenty of mainstream guys that mainly like I would say like Stallone is mainly made but even like for instance like the certain Rambo movies aren't they aren't like the greatest movies ever, but they occupy a place. There's a reason they occupy a place. There's like a classic setting, a classic story almost. It's not a very you know what I mean. It's
Right.
Rambo.
No, I get it.
But in Rocky's one of the biggest things ever, and he has some level of deserves some level of credit for the success of that franchise. He was very well involved in the at least some level of the creative process there, right?
Right, definitely. Okay.
So I think there's a bit more just involvement there. Those movies are remembered more than any Rock film is ever going to be remembered. And then like you said, mainstream stars. I'm not saying every film they have to do they need to be have an Oscar-worthy performance or even have the most serious. I'm just saying that actors or an actor with cares for their craft they would have more variety than what The Rock does, which is just put out movies. Whereas occasionally you I have tons of guys in the MCU, for instance. You might do a couple MCU movies, a couple mainstream movies in a row, then you go off and you do a couple indie things and you get your Oscar noms, or you still have a commitment to your craft, which keeps you focused.
Right.
It keeps you a good actor. It keeps you respected almost in a way as well because you're doing a variety of things.
So here's my
you don't
last thing.
typecast yourself.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think I think we've kind of hit the point.
Yeah.
We'll save Bad Batch for next time.
But very good though. Very
Bad
good.
Batch is very good.
But we're not gonna do Bad Batch every week anyway.
No,
but that animation. God damn it.
Next week, the animation really stepped it up.
Obviously,
let's
Tales
not
of the Jedi.
But let's not even go down that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hold it for next time.
Yeah.
Let's start off with Bad Batch, and we'll probably do Avatar when we come back next week.
Yeah, we'll do Bad Batch and Avatar.
Except when they do the live action Bad Batch, they could cast The Rock as Gregor.
I don't think they can.
What's his name? What's the big stupid guy?
Gregor.
Gregor. He could be Gregor.
That weapon he picks up, man.
That was good. I'm really happy with Bad Batch.
Yeah, I like Bad Batch.
It's not. I mean, it's not. It doesn't have a lot of sophistication like Clone Wars.
No, it's not as
But I don't care because it's just fun.
Yeah, it's just kind of
it's a thrill ride version of Clone Wars.
There is kind of a group of clones existing in the chaos of the start of the
it's
Empire.
The A-Team.
So, yeah, exactly.
It's the A-Team, but there is an underlying story of there's a nice heart
it's
to it.
Post Clone Wars. It's very much they're addressed. We get to address
it's not
we were on Sereno.
But it
in this
lines
first,
up with Clone Wars.
Yeah, we were on this episode
obviously.
where it was these first two episodes were the spoils,
Family.
the spoils of war and the
Right.
cost of war, and it was literally the Empire
Yes.
was looting Count Dooku's
Right.
homeworld from all the but they were looting all the loot that Count Dooku had looted during his war.
And that's right. And we'll talk about this.
So it's
obviously, let's save most of this. But I do like that they don't.
Yeah.
It's not over your.
It's more
not,
nuanced.
It's not hitting you over the head with the. It's see our lesson
Because
about
again, it is also a
corruption
cartoon and it is slightly a kid show as well.
And
look
at the Nazis.
The messaging, it has to be
look
more
at
nuanced.
the Nazis stealing all the wealth
Yeah.
of this planet, because that's all the Empire is.
That's what I always loved about Filoni. He doesn't have to make it the entire episode.
Right.
Not every episode.
It's an underlying thing.
It doesn't have the room as what it is to be go too deep into things. Although occasionally it does.
The debate,
yes.
between the batch in terms of what they should be doing is great.
Yes.
And I like that that's developing.
Or
that they
even
don't
the
all
one-
agree with each other all the
They
time.
meet the old man in the one episode, and he's trying to turn on this. How
you doing there, Ace?
There's literally wealth flying all over the place, and this guy doesn't care about all of it. But all he's trying to do is get
Survive.
this. It's like a database with his
Right.
people's history and culture, which has been eviscerated. We see the city,
Right.
which we've seen that city in previous episodes. That city was not like that previously.
Right.
It is now. Got orbitally bombarded. They said.
Right. And I think we may see some stuff with that again. We may see that guy again.
So Bad Batch is going to be pretty cool. I think this season.
All right. You got anything else?
I think that's it. We
Well,
went for a while. So.
Yeah. We're an hour and 7. Oh, wow. We went. That last 17 always seems to come out of nowhere. So we'd like to thank everybody for sticking with us over the last. We're up at 79 episodes. Whatever that we are. We really appreciate anyone who clicks in, and even if you listen for 2 minutes, we do certainly appreciate it.
Yep.
We love doing this. It's an honor to be sitting here talking this crap with my son every week. So.
Yeah.
I hope everybody having a good year. Thoughts to Hamlin and Renner and their families. And again, thank you. I'm going to say it again. Thank you, anybody that works in any type of scenario where you've got to save a life, where you've got to make quick decisions. I can't imagine dealing with that pressure. I admire you, and you should be paid twice as much, whoever you are and whatever you're doing. You deserve a lot more cred for what you do. So appreciate you watching, and we'll be back next week. Go see Avatar.